All right. We're live. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
How are you doing? Put on my Zadie glasses, as my daughter calls them. All right. Okay. This is our third class in Sefer Yetzirah. And let's see, I got the headphones on. Hopefully they're working. I have someone working on the videos. He said I need better audio and better video. So I'm going to switch next time, but for now, I don't have time. Okay. So we're learning about these 32 paths of wisdom, which is the opening frame of the whole Sefer Yetzirah. And basically the context that everything we're learning is going to be connected to, these 32 mystical paths of wisdom, which we've been speaking about for the last few classes. But now we're going to enter into a deeper concept of what these 32 paths are, which we spoke about a little bit last class. So let's hop right in. So it says paths. You know what? Whatever, it's too late. Next time, I think I have one or two extra copies I could give to you guys to follow along. Could share. So these 32 paths, it says the Hebrew word that is used for these paths in the Sefer Yetzirah, it says b'shloshim u'shtayim netivot. Netivot is a very interesting word that is very rarely used in the whole entire Tanakh. It means a path. The most common word that's used for a path is called a derech, right? You've heard this, like, oh, he's off the derech, OTD. Like, I hate when I say that, but whatever, OTD. Off the derech means off the path. So that is the general term in Hebrew that you use for path. Netivot is a word that's very unique. It's not used often. And what's special about it, it says in the Zohar, there's an important difference between derech and netivot. So the Zohar explains, a derech is a public route, a road that is used by all people. So if you're sending someone directions, like you say, okay, this is the derech, this is the way to go. Wherever, let's say you're giving directions, right? You would say US 1 is like a derech. It's a main pathway that people know that use. A nativ, on the other hand, which is netivot, which is the route where it comes from, it says is a personal route, a path blazed by the individual for his personal use.
How do you say nativ in English?
It means path.
Okay.
But that's what we're trying to make the distinction. The question was, how do you say netiviot in English? So that's the whole idea here, is that they both mean path. A derech and a nativ or netivot both mean paths. But a derech is a general path. Netivot is a personal path for each one to use. In other words, it's unique to you. It's your own way. It is a hidden path without markers or signposts, which one must discover on his own and tread by means of his own devices. It's a very powerful statement, because in the end of the day, right, one of the things we're all searching for is clarity, right? We talked a little bit about in the first few classes. You just walk right through. Hello, how are you? Good evening. We talked about in the first few classes this idea of we're trying to channel energy from above and guide us in our proper path in life, because in life a lot of times we make corrections. I've bring to an example just happened with me and my life right now. I'm very, very frustrated. I've spent the last 6 months, and I don't know about, let me back that up, probably last a year or two, probably $40,000 or $50,000 in my office, developing a program and having consultants and people work to try to get it figured out. And here I am, like a year and a half later, and it still hasn't worked. And we came to the realization today, we pretty much have to scrap everything we've done and start over from fresh. That's a very big pill to swallow. I've spent a year and a half, hundreds of hours of my time, and a significant amount of money for something that is getting flushed in the garbage. That's very challenging for me to deal with, because I don't like wasting money. Is it a waste? On one hand, I say it is, because we're not using it. On the other hand, part of taking ownership and leadership of not only my office, but of each one of us has to do in our lives, is we have to make decisions. A lot of times those decisions we hope turn out to be the right ones, and sometimes they turn out to be the wrong ones. it would be very nice if, God just handed us an instruction manual. I mean, we have the Torah, but I mean a private instruction manual and say, okay, here's who you have to meet, here's who you have to marry, here's what you're going to do for a living, here's where you're going to live. Wonderful, right? I'll just follow it. Doesn't do it. And that's what it says in the Tivot. There's no signs. There's no guideposts. God's just saying, go. How do you figure it out? You'll figure it out. Sometimes it may be right. Sometimes it may be wrong. I took a lot of books on leadership. I don't consider myself a leader, but I being in a CEO position of the center and my law firm, I have to be, right? Whether I like it or not. And it says one of the cardinal traits a leader has to have is they have to be able to make decisions. And once you make a decision, you got to go all in and move ahead. Sometimes it's right. Sometimes it'll prove to be wrong. We don't know. But the worst decision you can make is to not to make one. You're talking about a king of indecisiveness, they call it analysis paralysis. What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? Or maybe this? It doesn't work. When you're calculating in your brain, you never get out of it, right? We talk about fears a lot. Like how do you overcome fears? You can't convince yourself that you're not afraid. You just can't. It doesn't work. Okay, I'm going to do it. I mean it. I'm doing it. We have a guy in the center who was here the other day and sharing with me. He's afraid of heights. When we went to Peru and hiked Machu Picchu, we went on different activity. We did a zip lining. This was a guy that you would never guess is afraid of heights. He was like a manly man, like a strong, like you would look at him and be like, this guy's not afraid of anything. We get to the thing and I'm like, where's so-and-so? Oh, he's not coming. Why? He's afraid of heights. I'm like, oh, come on. There's not to make fun, but you just wouldn't imagine it. I'm like, dude, you're afraid of heights? He's like, petrified. I can't go on a tall building. He came the other day. He's very happy. What'd you do? He said, exposure therapy. What is exposure therapy? The thing you're afraid of, you do. He went skydiving.
Wow.
Yeah.
A huge jump.
That's a huge jump, literally, right? Like, talk about overcoming your fears. Like, he just went to the top. He said, I was pooping with my parents. I was scared to death. And once I jumped out, it was like, and now he wants to do it again.
Wow.
And that's an example. It's you have to get out of your head. And I'm talking about this from experience. I would sit for hours and weeks. My coach used to yell at me, just make a decision. I'm like, but I don't know which way. I don't know what. When I tell you all these things, I'm not coming from this like high level of I know everything. This is from me experiencing and being in fear and all the things I talk about it, I've dealt with personally. And I realized, from years of living that you have to make decisions. You have to make decisions. And the first person we have to be a leader for is ourselves. Because no one else is going to take ownership of our own lives, right? We put on The Matrix the other day. I didn't stay and watch it. I would have liked it, too much to do. But one of the themes in this movie is that there's a lot of underlying currents of religion and ideas, of metaphysical things, philosophy. But like very early on, he says, "Oh, you're my personal Yashka." He calls him, "You're my like," and this concept of you're the one, the chosen one. Oh no, I'm not. Often what happens in our life is we're waiting for someone to redeem us. We're waiting for someone to come along and say, they call it in the secular world, like the knight in shining armor. Like, oh, I'm here to save you. Here's what you're going to do, and I'm going to take you out of your misery. It could be a boyfriend or a husband or a wife, whatever. It could be a job. We're waiting for something to happen, and the reality of it is it doesn't work that way. We have to be the ones. We have to be the ones to say, I'm the one who's going to redeem myself. Of course, with God's help, with the Rebbe's help, with real Mashiach's help, with friends, with families, with support systems, for sure. But at the end of the day, the only person in this world that we can really change is ourselves. And no one else is going to do it for us. So this is the idea of these nitzavot, is there's no guideposts, there's no markers. There's so many times I'm like, God, just tell me what to do. Silence, right? It doesn't work that way. And sometimes our decisions may appear to not be good, but in the end, they are, because they're getting us closer to where we need to go. I mean, there's countless stories. We had a guy who was broken. He was shidduchim. He was on with the same girl. They dated for 6 months or a year. They're getting married off and up. Ended disaster. He's like, I wasted a year of my life. You didn't. You made a decision, and that's part of your mitivot. That's part of your path. That's part of your journey. But there's an old saying, like, when a ship is out in the ocean, you got a sailboat. It's out in the middle of the water. If you're heading this way, you could say, okay, well, wind could come. All right, maybe I'll go this way. Maybe I'll go this way. But when the ship is stuck in harbor and it's not moving, there's no assistance. God can't help you. No one can help you. When you're just sitting there like this, you got to get moving, right? Once you start moving, you start learning, you start adapting. You say, okay, well, maybe this isn't right. Maybe I'll do this right. You know, they say, and the difference in life and in school is in school, you learn and then you do. In life, you do and then you learn.
Mm-hmm.
So today was a painful decision. It was a painful realization for me. And I'm checking myself. And I look back, I'm like, but I did everything possible. I had consultants, I had advisors, I followed what I thought was the right thing to do. So I can't really beat myself up. I made a decision. It turned out not to be the optimal decision, but I moved ahead. And this, again, I've, through my trials and tribulations in business, I've learned sometimes you get a win and sometimes you get a loss. Things don't always work out the way you want them to work out. That's just life. It would be wonderful if they did, but they don't. But the most important thing is that we're taking the path, the Tivot. We're saying, okay, I need to discover my path because it's very important to get advice from other people. I'm a big fan of ask as many people as you can, but at the end of the day, you got to make your own decision. No one can decide for you. And what I found is often advisors are guiding me based on what they would do in that situation, but they're not me. They don't have my life. They don't have my genetics. They don't have my story. So how much advice can they really give me, right? They're giving me advice based on their story, what they think would work in our story, but it's our story. And that's the idea is we need to take ownership from our story and we have to say to ourselves, okay, these 32 paths of wisdom that unlock my heart, that are connected to who I am in this world, I have to try them and I have to try them alone. And it's a sobering thing. And a lot of people just, they can't get out of their own way. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that we block ourselves so many times sometimes because of overthinking, of fear of, and a lot of it's legitimate. A lot of it comes from past traumatic things.
We were having a whole conversation about this today.
Oh, really?
On the way here.
No way.
Literally.
So that's total hishgacha pratis,
Yeah.
brother. They say if you're learning in two different things or you hear two different things, two different people say the same thing, like God is talking to you. So if
Yeah.
we're just talking about that on the way here, and now we're talking about the class, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So yeah, it's called getting out of your own way, and it means just like you just gotta put your hand out and say, just I'm going for it. I'm doing it, right? Like talked about going to Israel, right? Amazing. That's a huge step.
Freaking out. But
You're
yeah.
freaking out, but you're going for it. Every step we take, it can never be wrong
Yeah.
because it's leading us closer to the right step.
Yeah.
You don't know until you've done it and you've processed and then you've been like, you know what? They say you could lose everything, just don't lose the lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, that didn't turn out the way I would have liked. Maybe I said something wrong, I did something wrong. How do I recalibrate? How do I recalculate? I have a little saying, it's like, correct, don't regret. Don't swallow in your regret. Oh, okay, whatever. That wasn't good. What can I change? How can I? And that's the idea of moving, right? These 32 paths, we're traveling. And as we travel, there's no guideposts, there's no signs. We're navigating through life. And as we go, we're learning. We're learning. Every single movie, every story follows the same kind of story about someone who is stuck. They're in a bad relationship, in a bad home, in a bad work, whatever it is. And they get the courage to start changing and making changes in their life. And they go on their journey. And that journey goes up, it goes down, it goes sideways. It has laughing, it has crying, it has. They say, how do you make it a successful Hollywood movie? If you get people to laugh and cry in the same movie, well, that's a success. And that's what life is really about. We're going to laugh sometimes. We're going to cry sometimes. It's going to be painful. It's going to be. It would be wonderful if it was all ups, but then it sounds nice, but there's no value for the ups, right? So God makes it interesting. Sometimes a little bit too interesting, but He didn't ask me for that. So that's the idea. We got to go on these 32 paths and discover our own way. And that's the beauty of what the Sefer Yetzirah is teaching us, that these 32 mystical paths of wisdom that God used, that He engraved, that wasn't just engraving in creation, it's engraved in our hearts. And at the end of the day, the more we move, the more we travel, the more we start developing our gut. And our guts is really what guides us. Because sometimes our brain leads us astray, sometimes our heart leads us astray, but sometimes you just have a feeling, right? Where does that come from? The more you get to know yourself, the more you get to know your journey, the more you experience people, things, whatever it is, as you're moving around in life, you start developing what we call an inner compass. an inner guide that's going to help us on that path. And I forgot who it says. There's a famous philosopher that said, "Life is a daring adventure, or it's nothing at all." You either just gotta go for it and like deal with whatever the fears, whatever the we all have it. We all have different levels of traumatic pasts, whatever they may be. I talk about this all the time. What are we gonna do? We got to be a victim or a hero. God put us in the world to be a hero. That doesn't mean we have to have thousands of followers on social media or someone has to make movies about us. It means a hero for me. That I'm now the VIP, the leader of my life. I wake up, we all have that aha moment where like, you know what? I got to get it together. I got to do something. I got to move, whatever it is. I'm going to move. I'm going to change my job, my friends, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever the case is. We all have that moment where we realize no one is going to take me out of this. I can wait and wait, tomorrow. Tomorrow's become weeks, months, years, right? We gotta hop. And then we go on our journey and we realize from traveling in this journey, and that's why it says the 32 paths of wisdom are called netivot. They are private paths, which each individual must make on their own. There's no open highway to the mysteries. Each individual must discover their own path. And that's, depending how you look at it, horrifically frightening or amazingly exciting, right? Like, wow. But what's really interesting, I find, is it says at the beginning of Sefer Yetzirah that these 32 paths, it says, of Chokhmah Hakika, they're engraved. Because in the end of the day, even though we have to discover our own path, God has already etched in our hearts what our paths are, which is another crazy thought if you think about it. And that's where that gut feeling comes from. That gut feeling is coming from the place of like, how do I know that we do it? We meet people. They may seem like nice people, but like weird vibes, right? Like you ever go into someone's house and everyone's like, and you're like, something's not right here, right?
Yeah.
I was talking about this on my way home from work too. I was like, I don't know, they're very nice people, but every time I go to the house, I just get this weird energy. It's like, yeah, me too. Where's that coming from? It's something's telling you it's not right. That's above your brain or your heart. That's a gut. And the more we travel on our own path, on this own on these own nitivot, the more we start discovering ultimately that we have a set path. We just don't know what it is. We just got to discover it, right? They say that it's not up to us to figure out what we want to do with our lives. It's up to us to figure out who we really are and become it. Because in the end of the day, the world's a giant puzzle, and each one of us is a piece. And God is trying to guide us to fulfill our unique piece. We just finished Yetzirah, Basi Lagani. That's the whole idea of Basi Lagani. I've come to my garden, my sister and I, right? And they should build a temple and I will dwell within them. Meaning God gave each one of us a garden. It's mine, it's yours. I can't have yours, you can't have mine. We spend so much time looking at other people's gardens and trying to say, oh, well, if I only had whatever it may be, blue eyes or taller or shorter, more money, more this. And that's what the sickness with all this social media stuff is that everyone's just absorbed with other people's lives. Someone was telling me that they have these studios now that people go to. And in the studio, it's kind of like a Hollywood studio that they could, through whatever's AI, whatever they do, they could put these people and make it look like they're in Japan, like they're hanging off a bridge, and they're not going anywhere. They do it all for social media. And these people have thousands and millions of followers they're going around, they haven't left anywhere. They're sitting in a studio with cars that aren't theirs, with imaginary screens that are places they've never been to. How empty and shallow does someone have to be to literally say, I don't care if my life sucks and there's nothing to it, as long as I project to the outside world what an amazing person I am. It's really insanity if you think about it. So the idea is these 32 paths of wisdom that are engraved inside of us, in our hearts. The more we go, this is when God says, Lech lecha, go. Where? I'll show you. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to show you. I mean, you don't know, right? Jake, you don't know what's waiting for you in this room. It's going to be awesome, right? You're trusting. It's a leap of faith. That's what they call it, right?
Yeah.
You're going,
Yeah.
and that's what it's about. Like, we have to make ourselves like explorers, like little kids again. This is what I loved about the inner child work I did for a couple of years. It's like, wow, an adventure. Like, like I go on my bike now, and now it's like, okay, I'm exercising. It's like, you try to look at the world in a new way. Like, every day you try to make it a little adventurous. What can I do to spice up the day? And when we're kids, before someone kind of crushed our dreams and our hopes and and all our belief system, a child wakes up and their eyes are shining. They're like, everything's new. It's exciting. It's well, and we can have the most exciting thing in the world. You get a new car, a new watch, whatever. It's like, wow, wow, wow. A month later, there's no excitement anymore, right? The idea is that when we know that we're on a journey and we're on a path and we're trying to live out our story, even though not every day is exciting, but if we look at it and step back and say, all right, how do I turn my life into an adventure? It's an adventure. Right? Make my life a story. We all have our own stories. If we spend more time focusing on how we can cultivate our stories and less time worried about what other people's stories are, we'd have so much time and energy to dedicate to the only thing that really matters, which is our own. And that's part of what the Yetzirah is doing in our generation. They want everyone totally distracted from anything about improving your life and just focused on what everyone else is doing. And everyone's following everyone else, and it's just a circle of just nonsense, a waste of time. Because in the end of the day, they don't really care about you. You think these people that people are like idolizing and following, think they give a crap about anything that happens? It's not real. It's just okay. Anyway, so these 32 paths of wisdom, we say they're open highways to the mysteries. Each individual must discover their own path. And again, that's how you look at it. It could be frightening, it could be exciting. I try to look at it as an exciting one. So the numerical value of nativ, which is nun, tes, yud, vav, base, is 462. So again, we're learning how every little thing is exact, right? Like, and it's super cool to see it inside at some of these things that we're learning. I just want to show you a brief diagram if I can find it. Because it's connecting to what we're talking about. Offices right here. 2, 4. This is like stuff you could like totally like trip out on. If anyone wanted to like do hallucinogenic drugs and learn this stuff, it would probably blow your mind. So these are called the 231 gates.
Can
Okay.
you pass it? I'm like blind from far.
The 231 gates are if you take every letter of the Hebrew alphabet and put it into a wheel, Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, all the way to Taf. Okay. Every 22 letter connect to each other letter. So Aleph connects to Base, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, etc. Right? Base connects to Aleph, Base, Gimel. Every letter connects to all 22 letters. Combined, they make 231 paths. These 231 paths, all the energy in the entire world channels through these 231 paths. That means the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet that God, the building blocks of creation, in that wheel, every combination fits along one of those 231 gates. So that's how God channels the energy into the world, right? We look at this as a cup. The Hebrew word is kos. So the Hebrew word for kos, through those Hebrew letters, God channels the energy, and it forms what appears to us, a little glass container. Nothing exists outside this 231 gates. So 462, which is nativ, is double 231, meaning all the letters combined in two directions. These gates are a means through which one ascends and descends along the 32 paths. This Sefer Yetzirah was originally, arguably, given from Avraham Avinu to great sages and great prophets to use as a tool to travel to the upper worlds with their soul ascents. Probably nothing any of us are going to do in this lifetime, but it's pretty cool to realize that, again, we're learning about what's going on and how we're applying it to our lives, but also to understand that there's a deeper mystical connection to this, that these 32 paths, that the Kabbalists from the ancient days would use these 231 gates to have their soul go into the upper worlds and kind of figure out the map to what these 32 gates are. Beyond anything in that, as far as I know, anyone in these generations, but it's just interesting to see again how the numbers, everything corresponds. That Netiveh, Netivot, which is 462, Nativ, 462, is double these 231. Okay, so that's the word Nativot, that when we talk about the 32 mystical paths that God created of wisdom. Now we're going to talk about the next word, which is Pelot. So again, going back to the original text inside, it says, B'shloshim 32, Netivot, which are paths, Pliot, which is wondrous, Chochma Hakek, that he engraved with wisdom. So Pliot, in Hebrew, comes from the word Pella. Pella is something that is wondrous, mystical, otherworldly. And it has a connotation of being hidden and separated from the world at large. Not only are these paths individual, but they are hidden, concealed, and transcendental. Meaning, how are you? That these paths are unique to us. That's one thing we set up, right? Nitivot is something that belongs to me individually and to no one else. But they're also mystical. Again, we're not born with this imagine, right? We came out of the womb with a little sheet. It says, here are your 32 paths. Here's how you do it. Wow, wonderful. It would be easy, but it wouldn't be exciting. It wouldn't be adventurous. We may say we would like to know everything mapped out, but it kind of takes the spice away from it, right? Otherwise, you're just kind of like robotic. You're just following, it's like filling in a line and following on a long line. So not only are these paths unique to you, but God makes them hidden, as we already said. They're concealed. Our job is to find them, to reveal them. Ultimately, the Hebrew word for world is ha'olam. It's the same word of helam, which means concealed. God is hidden and concealed in this world. All the deep secrets of reality are hidden in this world. And our journey, our unique 32 paths, are hidden within us. Our job is to uncover what is hidden, right? In other words, it's almost like it's there. And this comes from this feeling of this gut feeling of sometimes you feel like we're talking about flow, like things are moving in a state of flow. It's a good sign that you're kind of like maneuvering around your path. Sometimes you feel like you're going the wrong way. Sometimes, which I still don't understand why, but it's like God allows you to veer way off course before you have a correction. It's like, why did I waste the last year and a half of my life? It seems like we don't understand, but it's not a waste. Everything is for the right reasons, and we don't understand it, and it's all part of our journey. Every step we take, every decision we make, we just got to keep moving. We just got to keep moving, even if it appears to be bad, wrong, whatever the case. Let's keep going, keep going. And the more we go, what we're doing is we're kind of blowing the dust off those hidden paths inside of us. Because again, this is nothing that you can just reach into with your brain. You can't learn something without doing it. Anyone who learns a particular skill, there's only so much reading you can do. You eventually have to go out and do it, right? Whatever it is, it's a sport, it's an art, it's music, it's business. How do you make good business decisions? By making bad business decisions. You realize, okay, I don't want to do that again, right? That's the only difference in successful people and unsuccessful people. Successful people make a lot more mistakes than unsuccessful people. They realize they made a mistake and they fix it again. Unsuccessful people make a mistake, they're afraid to make another mistake, and they just stop doing it again. Everyone's making mistakes.
I was watching a video about a figure skater,
Mhm.
and it was on TikTok. So people asked her questions, and someone asked her how do you avoid falling when you're learning how to skate? And she said the first thing they teach you is how to fall. So
There you
she's
go.
like, you can't be a figure skater without falling. It's the first thing.
That's it. There's no such thing, right? It doesn't exist. I had this book one time. I gave it to my wife. I read it a long time ago, and it said, "Feel the fear and do it anyways." The most skilled anything in the world, Olympic medalists, professional boxer, concert, violinist. Every time before they perform, they're shaking with fear. You've done it 1,000 times. What are you afraid of? It's a natural human emotion. When you have to perform in front of other people, when someone's looking at you, when what you do is going to be permanent, what you do is going to be judged, you're going to be afraid. It's not going to go away.
But the difference between successful and not successful is self-esteem.
because successful people, if they will fall, it will not shatter their self-esteem. So they are falling, it's hurting, it's ouch, but they can go back.
And where do you think self-esteem comes from?
A good parent.
Also,
Comes from
I
doing.
think doing, yeah.
Yeah,
That's how you develop self-esteem.
But when you fail, when you're falling, when you felt when you were a child and no one taught you how to soothe yourself, I don't want to sound victim, but this is what's building the child, that he can fall and he knows they have the word to soothe himself, and it's okay, I fell.
So we come to a realization we didn't get it. So now what? We have a choice. For the rest of my life, I'm going to say, I don't have self-esteem, I can't do.
No, I didn't say.
So what do we do?
But I want to say that this is deep.
Fine. No one's taking away from that. But it doesn't mean that, okay, who said it was easy?
Okay,
It's a word I hear a lot, but it's hard. No one said it's easy. To be successful is not easy. Or everyone would be. If it was easy to make money, everyone would be multimillionaires. They'd just sit on their couch and be like, money, and it would just fly on top of their heads. There's no one in this world, nobody, who has achieved success in any field that has not worked their butt off hard as hell to get there. Nobody. There's a saying. It says, hard work without talent is a shame. But talent without hard work is a tragedy. Meaning the more talent you have, the harder you need to work. People think just because someone has a chush, a natural ability for something, they got it easy. Oh, that's easy for them. They had good parents, they had good upbringing, they had a lot of self-esteem. No. They teach you in coaching who to invest in your office in, not your C employees, your B employees, to turn them into A's. The people, we got to get out of this mindset that easy and good are the same thing. It's a failure mindset.
Thank you.
No, but it is, because but that's hard. Of course it's hard. Who said it's going to be easy? Where did we come into this world where God says, every success you have will be easy for you? It doesn't exist. No one. Okay, some people win the lottery. But show me someone who has started at a baseline, whatever talent they have. The most talented golfer in the world practices 6 hours a day. Why? You got so much talent. Just go out and hit the ball. You're constantly readjusting. You're constantly fixing. You're constantly doing. Pick a field. Show me any successful person. And professional teams. You know how many hours a day they practice? Why? You're professional. Go to sleep and show up for the game. You're a professional. It doesn't work that way. It's hard work. Life is not easy, but it's good. If you want an easy life, check out. Go sit on the couch, read books, and do nothing. It's not going to happen. Anything in life that is being a husband or wife easy, is being a parent easy? Of course not. Where do successful kids from? Parents who put in a lot of work. How does a beautiful plant come? A lot of gardening, a beautiful garden. It's all hard work. The only difference is that if we convince ourselves it's not worth putting the hard work into. Like, okay, my child, okay, that's a good investment. But myself, it's not worth it. That's what we have to check in our brain. That's what we have to fix. This voice that says we're not worth the effort. The greatest investment you can make in this world is in yourself. In yourself. I go to seminars, I go to classes, I spend thousands of dollars to learn, and I have friends of mine that are lawyers, like, why are you wasting all that money? I'm like, how is it a wasting of money? I'm investing in myself, I'm investing in my growth. But when you're in a low place, it's hard to do that because we don't think we're worth it. We don't think we have enough value to invest in. Hands down, the best investment you can make in any capacity, in self-improvement, in your exercise, in your mindset, coaching, therapy, whatever it is, you'll never lose. God made us incomplete, and he said, I want you to work together. I'm going to help you, but I'm not going to do it for you. So the word pelot, or wondrous, is connected to the word miracle. Pella is a miracle. A miracle is something separate and independent from the laws of the physical world. It is also influenced by hidden forces. As such, it is a link between the mystical and transcendental plane. The same is true of the paths of wisdom. Meaning, chokhmah, or wisdom, is really what we call a mamutzer, or go-between, between the upper worlds and the hidden, concealed, godly energy and our physical reality. And that's really what we're trying to do, without trying to turn this into a religious conversation. We're trying to dance with God, because there's only a few choices we have, right? In the end of the day, we have to kind of, at some point, realize we got to do something with our lives, right? So how are we going to do it? It can be a painful way, it could be a difficult way, or at some point in time, and I could only use my own life as an example. Like, I used to war with God a lot. I was very angry at God. I think I got shortchanged. I used to focus on all my difficulties, all my challenges, all the things that went wrong, all the things I didn't get, all the problems, and I didn't realize it, but I found myself complaining a lot. And maybe people outside would have been like, "What are you complaining about?" People may look at us, we're still, no matter how you slice it, and I'm not even talking about Jewish or non-Jewish, I'm just talking about the way we live. We're in the 100th% of the world. I mean, a large majority of the world doesn't have food, doesn't have clean water, doesn't have a roof over their head, doesn't have shoes to wear. Their entire day is focused on to get one little piece of food to see if they can make it through the rest of the day. I don't know if you've ever been to third world countries and you've ever seen the level of poverty. It's frightening. These people make $1 a day, $2 a day. Survival is like an understatement. That's their whole existence. And we wake up, and for the most part, okay, we have our challenges. I get it. But we have roofs over our head. We have food to eat. We have air to breathe. We have some level of resources of support. I mean, we've got a lot baseline to start with. So yeah, we could find plenty of things to be angry about and frustrated about. But at what point in time do we stop that frustration and anger and say, okay, I got dealt a short hand. It's true. A lot of people have much bigger challenges. Some people born without limbs, without eyes. Everyone has their different. I'm not here to minimize anyone's challenge or journey. Everyone has their own journey. But at some point in time, and we all have that moment. I remember when I had that moment where I was just like, enough, stop. Get your shit together. Like, stop blaming people. Stop blaming your mother. Stop blaming your father. Stop blaming God. Stop getting angry at this one. And just, it's my life. No one is changing anything for me. What am I going to do about it? I can complain until I die. Someone's going to feel sorry for me? Whose life got ruined? My mother or my father? They complain about mine. So I have to switch the knob and say, all right, I can only mold with the clay I've been given. God has given each one of us a set of challenges, of blessings, of obstacles, whatever they are. What am I going to do with this? And that's what it says. These mystical paths really connect us to God. We're connecting us to the fact that God's saying, yeah, I gave you this journey. And you could be angry at me. That's fine. You could take out your anger. You could scream and yell. And I did. I gave certain people different challenges and different obstacles that other people don't have. But now what? You want to cry? Cry. But when is it going to stop? And again, I'm just talking about my journey. I got to the point where I'm like, okay, God, this is it. Let's dance. Meaning, let's try to get into a state of flow of, this is my garden. These are my weeds. These are my trees. These are my plants. This is what I can't change, but this is what I can change. Let me try to focus on how to bring whatever flowers I could find in my garden. We all have them. Someone may not see them. We may not see them in ourselves, but we all have positive characteristics. And what can I use to try to get this energy going? Was that a sneeze or a cough?
Sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And connect. And that's what he's saying now, that it's a link to the mystical and transcendental plane, meaning we have our different senses, right? We can touch, we can see, we can hear. Thoughts, they're the most spiritual of everything, because where are they? Where do they come from? It's a kind of crazy thing if you think about it sometimes. Where do my thoughts come? Are they my thoughts? Have God put them there? Sometimes we have crazy thoughts. Whoa, where did that come from? You're ever sitting there, all of a sudden, the most bizarre thing goes in your head. You're like, whoa, crazy. It's like in a dream state. You wake up, you're like, whoa. You're sitting there daydreaming, and all of a sudden you're like, get out of my head. That's nuts. Where does that come from? So there's a very mystical dimension to our thoughts. There's something that we can't quite put our fingers on, that we can't quite touch on to. The idea is, how do we kind of recalibrate and realign and figure out where these paths are that we can connect in a meaning way, in a good way, to a journey in our life, whatever that journey may be. And that's why it says that they're called mystical paths of wisdom. They're called ple'ot, because you can't grasp them. It's something much deeper than again, we didn't get here are your paths, here's where you need to go. At this time, call this person, that sounds like it would be awesome. But we would get bored really quickly. We would. It's sometimes there's a joy when you're in a little bit of a dark place sometimes, and it sucks. But then all of a sudden, when a light comes on, it's like, like you figure something out, whatever it may be. You didn't know, now you know. It's like part of this journey that God's just taking us through. Again, it's ups and downs, and it's the downs really that make us appreciate the ups. Right? It's like riding a bicycle. It's like you're like climbing up that hill, but then when when you go down, it made the effort worthwhile. Okay, so we'll just finish up with this last one point. So it says, according to the Zohar, the word Pele specifically relates to the paths of wisdom. The type of miracle donated by the word Pele is specifically one that is accomplished through the manipulation of these 32 paths. The methods of manipulating these paths is one of the important teachings of the Sefer Yetzirah. How we can tap into our own 32 paths and how we can work them to go where we need to go in life. Excuse me. The Sefer Yetzirah later calls the three mothers a great mystical secret. The first of the three mothers is Aleph. Aleph, spelt out, is Aleph Lamed Peh, which means Pele. The Aleph we talked about, Aleph, Mem, Shin, are the three mothers, the three energies that control everything else. Aleph is connected to air, Mem is to water, and Shin is to fire. Those are the three fundamental energies that bring everything into the world. So the first one, Aleph, which is connected to breath and also to Keter, spells Pele, spells miracle or wonders. And that's the idea. So it says over here, the Kabbalists connect the letter Aleph to Keter, as we just said, the highest of the Sefirot. It is with regard to Keter that Ben Sira said, in what is mysterious for you, do not seek. They call this level of Keter the level of nothingness, ayin. It is at this level that the laws of nature cease to exist and therefore can be altered. Meaning, you have to go out of the confines of the negative voice in your brain and the negative energy and the fears and the doubts and all that stuff. When you're living in that state of consciousness, you can't grow. You're blocked because there's no room for light. There's no room for clarity. There's no room for direction. Part of meditating, I don't know if anyone's ever meditated, but if you haven't, I highly recommend even a few minutes a day just to close your eyes and try to just breathe and just focus on the breath. And when thoughts come into your brain, kind of push them away, because when your head is filled with noise and darkness, you can't see light. When you can't see light, you don't know where to go. You don't know, your things are blocked. So that's what it says now. This level of ayin or nothingness it's above nature. That's so it's coming and wheeling me right off the table. So in this level of nothingness, this is where we have to start to our base point. Is we want to take all the weeds that are overcome our garden and all the negative stuff and get rid of it momentarily, just to move it aside, to see the flowers, to see the goodness, to allow for that new energy to come in. So we will stop there and with God's help continue on next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful journey.
Thank you.